Dune is probably one of the most hyped movies I've seen in a very long time. Since before it came out, people have been excited to see this film because of several reasons. Mainly because it's directed by Denis Villeneuve, which has a great record with science fiction movies. He directed Blade Runner 2049, he directed Arrival, which were two great films that I really enjoyed. And Dune, since the trailer was dropped, was incredible. And also, people have been excited because it was based on a book that came out, I think, 30 years ago, and it was actually turned into a series of books, and it was really good. I think the movie has a lot of really awesome themes that translate, I think, well. I haven't read the book, but I really want to do this after seeing the movie, especially now that the second part and probably the third one have been confirmed. It was such an incredible experience that I'm really excited to talk about and to share my thoughts with everybody. So without further ado, let's go into Dune and talk about the things that I liked and some of the things that I thought could have been improved. But overall, I really enjoyed the movie, and yeah, let's get on to with the review. The wait for this movie was impressive. It was delayed several times for because of the COVID pandemic, and now it finally was released last weekend. And I couldn't have been happier. I think the movie, from beginning to end, it's just one of those movies that it's kind of like a really impressive show, and it shows like the best parts of filmmaking, which are the special effects, the sound design. I think everything in that department, like from the design and the perspective of how it was crafted to create a perfect movie. It was just incredible. I think that Denis Villeneuve did a great job with the direction, the characters. I think the cast was also impressive. Like, it had Timothée Chalamet as the main character. It had Zendaya, which actually I'll talk a little bit more about her character because I think it could have been improved in several ways. But also I enjoyed some of the other characters. Oscar Isaac as Paul Atreides, his father. That's Timothée Chalamet's father character in the movie. I think he did an amazing job too, and pretty much everybody in the movie had did a good job. I think all the acting was pretty well done, and that's one of the highlights of the movie. And I'm going to talk about some other themes that really shine, but I think the acting was impressive. In that department, I don't think anybody can really complain, and that's something I really enjoyed about Dune. I think the acting was just one of the best things about the movie. So the plot follows Paul Atreides, which is kind of like a prince and like a member of a really rich family, which is the Atreides family, and they make a deal where they have to go to a desert planet and they have to colonize the world and kind of like convince the people to join their side and basically make a business out of this like resource called spice. And the politics of the movie are really well done. I think the lore is pretty deep. The lore of the movie is explained, and this is something a lot of people complained that it was kind of hard to understand, but I think it did it just fine. Like, I had never read the book before, didn't know any of the characters, any of their motivations, but I think the movie did a decent job in the beginning, and over like the hour and a half mark, you pretty much understand a lot of what's going on. And there's a perfect balance between like exposition scenes and action. I think the action was also super really well done. And that's something I'll talk about in a bit too, because people also thought the movie was kind of slow, kind of like maybe boring in certain parts, but I think it just fits well with the style of the movie. This is one of those films that you just gotta watch and take in the scenery, and especially like I mentioned before, the sound design, the visuals are really great, especially in scenes involving the sandworms. That's probably my favorite part of the movie. The sandworms were just impressive in every single way. And speaking about the sandworms and some other things like the witches and like the magic, it really leaves you feeling like this is going to be explored more in like the sequel. And this is something I thought it was really well done. It's kind of reminded me of Star Wars. And I just think Dune was something that we needed after the Star Wars trilogy, which I thought was just really mediocre. This movie did a really great job with the characters. It did a great job with the story. It really knew how to tell a story. And I think just Villeneuve's direction and vision made that possible, because I don't think this would have been done with any other character. I think his work in Blade Runner 2049 was great, and it really translates well into this movie. You can tell it's a product made with passion and made with a lot of passion, a lot of vision, and I just really, really enjoyed it. So those were some of the things that stood out to me. I recognize how hard it is to tell a story and build a world, like from a science fiction or fantasy world, which have a lot of different things, like a lot of things like people have to introduce themselves with. to understand the story and the universe. And I think the movie did a good job with that. I think some of the characters could have had more potential, especially like Zendaya as Chani. I think her character was just like she just appears for like 10 minutes in the end. Like she appears like a grand total of 15, 10 minutes, just like flashback scenes. And I just really wish her character would have been explored more. But I guess that's going to be done in the sequel. Like I can't complain like that because the sequel was announced, Dune 2, and I think that's gonna like fill a lot of the gaps that we saw in this movie. So that's something I'm really excited about. Also, I'm gonna go a little bit into spoilers here, so if you don't want to get spoiled, skip ahead. But also, I think Jason Momoa's character as Duncan Idaho was a good character. I really like his interactions with Paul Atreides. I just think his character was died way too soon. I wish he would have explored him more, maybe save him for the sequel, like make him do more, because he just kind of shows up for a couple action scenes. Also, Oscar Isaac character, I think he dies in this chapter, and he did such a great job. I think he was probably my favorite character in the movie. Just like his acting, his delivery, everything was great. So I think that's all my thoughts like around the characters. The movie has themes surrounding like pain, religion, destiny, fear, just like really heavy stuff that I thought was executed well. These are all things that just kind of like put you in a meditative state while watching the movie, so that's something I really appreciated. And yeah, so overall I think I really enjoyed the movie. It has a lot of good things, like also like the visuals, the sound design. I think if you're like a really big nerd around that stuff, you're going to enjoy Dune, so I can't really complain about that. I can't wait for the sequel. I think Villeneuve said that he wanted to make a trilogy, so that's going to be awesome. I'll probably check out the books later because I really enjoy reading fiction, and I haven't read a good fiction book in a while, so I'll probably read Dune next. But yeah, those are pretty much like most of my thoughts surrounding the movie. Also, one of the faults that I thought the movie had is that it focused too much on making this feel like a part one instead of its own thing. I thought the movie could have done better, but that was before the second part was announced. Like now that I can rest fine knowing that there's gonna be a sequel. I just thought that really the movie was like, oh, we're building up to this ending, and boom, just cuts up abruptly. Because the ending is kind of abrupt, like something like Paul just reaches a point where it's gonna like the story has to continue in order to understand what's going on. And I complained about that in the theater, I remember, but now I realize like that's natural if it's going to be a trilogy, because that pretty much happens in like the Lord of the Rings part one, like the Fellowship of the Ring. It cuts abruptly, but it's going to continue to a second and third part, so I can't really complain about that. I think it did a really good job just being a part one, and we can rest easy knowing that there's going to be a part two, because I really feel like I can't trust any directors now. Like after Zack Snyder's Justice League, we're never going to see how that story ends. The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, there's several books. It just ended with one film. There was such a great movie, and I'm just never gonna know what's gonna happen next with those characters. But I'm really glad this movie got a second and third part. But anyways, I'm gonna give Dune an 80%, an 80 out of 100. I did a good job. I enjoyed the movie so much. It's definitely up there with the best of the year. I kind of went in with high expectations, but I still think it did a really good job. I think the movie was really well done. It lives up to the hype. But yeah, we'll see how the story continues and hopefully concludes in the third part of the trilogy. So anyways, those are all my thoughts about Doom. So I just wanted to make this video to review it, and expect more reviews in the future, and also check out my new channel. I'll put the links in the description, and I'll see you everybody next time. Goodbye.